Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the worn boots of a man history barely remembers correctly. Charles Ingalls, Pi. But forget the TV show version with the perfect hair and the wisdom-dispensing smile. Forget the books that made him seem unshakable. We're going back to August 1880. To a moment in a hayfield in Dakota Territory, where Pa looked at a muskrat den and realised his family was about to face something catastrophic. Drop your city and local time in the comments. I want to know who else is here, cosy and warm, about to discover what fear really looks like when you're responsible for 9 human lives. Now close your eyes, feel the safety around you, the warmth, remember it, because you're about to lose it. You wake up on August 12, 1880. The air is thick with heat, that oppressive Dakota summer heat that makes your shirt stick to your back before breakfast. You're Charles Ingalls, 44 years old. You've moved your family more times than you can count, chasing promises of good land and fresh starts that never quite pan out. Wisconsin to Kansas to Minnesota to Iowa, and now here to Smet, Dakota Territory. Population, maybe 75 people if you count the railroad workers. You've got a general store now. Well, you work in someone else's general store, but still, you filed a homestead claim on 160 acres outside town. This time, you tell yourself, this time it's going to work. This time you'll build something permanent. Your daughter Laura, she's 13, is with you today, stacking hay out near Big Slough. The prairie grass is tall, golden, beautiful in that deceptive way that makes newcomers think this land is generous. You know better. This land takes more than it gives. But you're not thinking about that right now. Right now, you're just working. The rhythmic swing of the scythe, the smell of cut grass, Laura chattering beside you about something, you're only half listening, and then you see it. The Muskrat house. You stop mid-swing. The house, the den these creatures build in the marsh, is massive. Thick walls, abnormally thick. You've seen muskrat houses before. You've trapped these animals for years. You know what normal looks like. This isn't normal. You walk closer, Laura following, curious. The walls are packed tight, reinforced, like the muskrats are building a fortress instead of a home. Your stomach tightens. There's an old saying, frontier wisdom passed down from trappers and Indians who've watched this land longer than white settlers have been here. The thicker the muskrat builds, the harder the winter coming. Pa? Laura's voice cuts through your thoughts. What is it? You don't answer right away. You're calculating. You've lived through hard winters. The blizzard of '73 that killed livestock all across Minnesota. Winters where the food got tight and the fuel ran low. But you always made it through. You always found a way. This muskrat house, though. This makes your hands go cold despite the August heat. Because muskrats don't lie. They don't exaggerate. They just build what they need to survive. And if they need walls this thick, if they're preparing for something this extreme... Laura, you say, your voice steady but serious. I've never seen a muskrat house built this heavy. Never. The colder the winter's going to be, the thicker they build. And this... You trail off. You don't want to scare her. But she's old enough to understand. She looks at the muskrat house, then back at you. How bad? You force a smile. Probably nothing. Just being cautious, half pint. But inside, you're already planning. The family is living on the homestead claim right now. A small shanty, barely insulated. If this winter is as bad as the muskrats think, you need to move them into town, closer to supplies, closer to other people, closer to help if things go wrong. You don't know it yet, but this decision, this moment of paying attention to a muskrat den, is going to save your family's lives. Because in 2 months, the sky will turn grey and won't clear for 7 months. And you'll be trapped in a tiny room above a store, watching your children's faces hollow with hunger, grinding wheat by hand because that's all that's left, twisting prairie hay into fuel because the coal is gone, and wondering if you made the right choice coming to this godforsaken territory in the first place. You'll wonder if this is it, if this is how it ends. Charles Ingalls, the man who kept moving, kept trying, kept believing the next place would be better, finally stopped by weather so brutal it doesn't care about your hope or your hard work or your love for your family. But you don't know any of that yet. Right now, It's just you and Laura, and a hayfield and a muskrat house that's trying to warn you. You pick up the scythe. Let's finish up here. We've got work to do back in town, Laura nods. She doesn't ask why you've gone quiet. She's learning already that silence sometimes means worry too big for words. The sun beats down, the grass smells sweet, the prairie stretches endless and golden in every direction. It looks peaceful, safe, like a place where you could build a life. It's not. By October, you've moved the family into town. The decision felt right, even if you couldn't fully explain why. Caroline didn't question it. She trusts your instincts after all these years, so now you're all crammed into the building where you work. Fuller's store on Main Street. It's small, tight quarters for you, Carolyn, and the 4 girls. Mary, who's 16 and whose eyesight is getting worse every day. Laura, Carrie, 10 years old and quiet as a mouse, and little Grace, who just turned 3. Plus you're boarding George and Maggie Masters and their infant. 9 people total, 9 lives you're responsible for. The store is busier than usual today. Men loading supplies onto wagons, families stocking up before winter, the usual controlled chaos of a frontier town preparing for cold weather. You're behind the counter, tallying purchases, when the door opens. An old man walks in, Native American. You can tell by his clothing, the way he moves. He's elderly, weathered, the kind of face that looks like it's seen more winters than you can count. The store goes quiet. Not hostile exactly, but wary. Tensions between settlers and native peoples run hot out here, even in peaceful moments. The old man approaches Fuller, the store owner. He speaks English, broken but clear enough. "I come to warn." Fuller glances at you, then back at the old man. "Warn about what?" "Winter, hard winter coming." You stop what you're doing. Everyone in the store is listening now. The old man continues. 7 years is a cycle. After 7 years, hard winter comes. This year is 7 times 3 years. 21 years. The worst of all. 7 months of blizzards. The store is silent. Someone laughs, nervous, disbelieving. 7 months? That's impossible. Winter doesn't last that long out here. But you're not laughing. You're remembering the Muskrat house, the thick walls, the warning you saw in August. The old man looks directly at you. His eyes are dark, unreadable. The snow will come early. It will not stop. The iron road. He gestures toward the railroad tracks. Will be buried. No trains, no supplies. You must prepare, store food, store fuel. Or you will not see spring. Then he leaves. Just walks out, the door swinging shut behind him, leaving a room full of white settlers staring at each other in uncomfortable silence. Fuller clears his throat. "Well, that was strange." "You think he knows something?" someone asks. "Indians always think they know something," another man says dismissively. "Probably just trying to scare us." "But you're doing math in your head. 7 months, October through April. That's not possible. Winter in Dakota is hard, sure, but 7 months? The railroad shutting down completely? Caroline is waiting when you get upstairs that evening. "I heard about the Indian who came in today." You nod, sitting heavily on the edge of the bed. "He said 7 months of blizzards. Said the railroad would be buried. Do you believe him?" You're quiet for a long moment. "I don't know, but I saw that Muskrat house back in August, and if the Muskrats are right, and the old Indian is right..." You look at her. "We need to be ready. More supplies, more fuel. We can't assume the trains will keep running." Caroline's face is calm, but you see the worry in her eyes. She's been through hard times with you. Grasshoppers destroying crops, failed harvests, nights when dinner was thin and the children went to bed hungry. She knows how quickly things can go wrong. "We'll manage," she says. "We always do." You want to believe her. God, you want to believe that your hard work, your planning, your experience will be enough. But something in your gut is twisting. Something that says this time is different. You stand, walk to the window. The street below is quiet, the sky is clear, stars bright. It's a beautiful October night. Mild. Peaceful. You think about the Muskrat house, about the old man's warning, About 21 years and 7-month winters and iron roads buried under snow. And you think, maybe he's wrong. Maybe it'll be a normal winter. Maybe we'll look back in April and laugh about how we worried for nothing. Maybe. But Charles Ingalls didn't survive this long on the frontier by ignoring warnings. You've learned to listen. To nature, to animals, to people who know this land better than you do. So you'll prepare. You'll stock extra supplies. You'll make sure there's fuel. You'll do everything you can to keep your family safe. And you'll hope it's enough. Spoiler, it won't be. The days after the old Indian's warning feel normal. Too normal. The sun shines. The air is crisp but not cold. Men joke about the crazy old Indian trying to scare everyone. Some families leave anyway, pack up their wagons and head east before the weather turns. But most stay. You stay. Because where would you go? You've run before. Packed up in the middle of the night when the landlord in Burr Oak wouldn't extend your rent. Fled grasshoppers in Minnesota. Left Kansas when the land proved too hard. Every time you told yourself the next place would be better, and every time it wasn't better. Just different problems. De Smet feels like the end of the line. You're 44 years old. You have a store job. You have a homestead claim that you've actually managed to prove up. You have a community, small as it is. If you leave now, what's waiting for you? Another failed start. Another town where you're the new guy, the stranger, the one who couldn't make it work. No, you're staying. But staying means preparing. So you buy extra flour when the trains come through. You stock up on coal. Expensive, but necessary. You make sure there are potatoes stored in the cellar, dried meat hanging, whatever supplies you can afford. It's not as much as you'd like. Money is always tight. The store job pays, but not well. You've got 9 mouths to feed on wages that barely cover 6. Caroline stretches everything. She's a master at making a little go a long way, watering down soup, cutting bread thin, rationing butter until it's almost invisible. The children don't complain. They've learned not to. When you grow up on the frontier, you understand that food is never guaranteed. Laura watches you sometimes with those sharp, assessing eyes. She's only 13, but she's old enough to see the worry you're trying to hide. She's old enough to understand that adults don't always have the answers. You catch her looking at the supplies stacked in the corner, doing her own calculations. How long will this last? What happens if the trains don't come? You wish you could tell her it'll be fine, that Pa has everything under control, that the old Indian was wrong and the winter will be mild and by Christmas this will all seem silly. But you can't lie to Laura. She's too smart. She sees through you the way Caroline does. So instead, you put your hand on her shoulder and say, "We'll be all right, half pint. We always are." She nods, but you both know it's more hope than certainty. Mid-October arrives. The weather is still holding, still mild. Some of the men who stayed are feeling smug. See, that old Indian didn't know what he was talking about, probably just trying to scare us off the land. You don't argue, but you're watching the sky, watching the way the birds are flying, south, fast, like they can't get out of here quickly enough, watching how the horses are nervous, skittish, watching the wind shift. And then, on October 15th, the temperature drops. Not gradually, not the slow cooling you expect as fall turns to winter. It drops 20 degrees in 2 hours. The wind picks up, not howling yet, just a steady, ominous push from the northwest. You're outside checking the building shutters when you see it. A wall of grey-white moving across the prairie. Not clouds, not fog, snow. A moving wall of snow. "Everyone inside," you shout. "Now!" The blizzard hits at 4:47 p.m. 1 minute you can see the building across the street. The next you can't see your own hand in front of your face. The wind doesn't gust. It screams. It tears at the walls, finds every crack, every gap. Snow doesn't fall. It flies horizontally, pelting the windows like frozen bullets. You slam the door. Inside, Caroline has gathered the children away from the windows. Grace is crying. Mary looks frightened. Carrie is pale. Laura is staring at the door like she's calculating how long it would take to get buried out there. "It's all right," you say, forcing your voice to stay calm. "Just a blizzard. We've seen worse." That's a lie. You've never seen worse. This is something different. Something wrong. The blizzard lasts 3 days. 3 days of wind so loud you can't hear yourself think. 3 days of snow piling against the door until you have to dig your way out. 3 days of watching your supplies dwindle and wondering how much longer this can possibly last. When it finally stops, the silence is deafening. You open the door, have to shove hard because snow has drifted against it, and step outside. The world is white. Completely, utterly white. Snow is waist deep. Drifts are piled 10, 12 feet high against buildings. The street is unrecognisable. The railroad tracks are buried. You stand there, breath fogging in the brutally cold air, and you realise the old Indian was right. 7 months. The words echo in your head. 7 months of blizzards. You look back at the building where your family's waiting. 9 people depending on you. 9 lives that need food, warmth, safety. And you think, I might not be able to give them that. For the first time in your life, Charles Ingalls, the man who always found a way, who always kept his family safe, you think you might fail. The wind picks up again. Another storm is coming. You can feel it. You go back inside, close the door, face your family. Caroline looks at you, a question in her eyes. You force a smile. We'll be fine. Just need to ration carefully. But inside, you're terrified. Because this is only October. And if this is what October looks like, what will January bring? It's November now. The blizzards keep coming. One ends, and before you can dig out properly, another wall of white slams into town. The sky stays grey. The wind never stops. It's like the prairie itself has turned against you. Angry, relentless, trying to bury everything you've built. You're Charles Ingalls and you're standing in what used to be your coal pile. Used to be. Now it's just a small mound of black rocks that wouldn't fill a bucket. You stare at it, doing math that makes your stomach clench. 9 people, 1 stove, temperatures that haven't been above 0 in 3 weeks. This coal won't last another week. Maybe not even 3 days if you keep the stove going hot enough to actually warm the room. Caroline is watching from the doorway. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't have to. You've been married long enough that silence speaks volumes. She's asking, what do we do when it's gone? You don't have an answer yet. The lumberyard still has wood. You walked past it yesterday during a brief break in the weather. Stacks of it, enough to heat every building in town for the rest of winter. But the prices, God, the prices. The owner knows he's got you all by the throat. Supply and demand. When demand is survival and supply is limited, the man holding the supply can charge whatever he wants. You can't afford it. The store job pays, but not enough. Not for wood at those prices. Not when you're already stretching every penny to feed 9 mouths. So you stand there, staring at the coal that won't last, and you realise you're going to have to burn hay. Hay, prairie grass, the same stuff cattle eat. You're going to twist it into bundles and shove it into a stove designed for coal and hope it produces enough heat to keep your family from freezing to death. The absurdity of it hits you. You came to Dakota Territory with dreams of a prosperous farm, a permanent home, a better life for your children. And now you're calculating how many hours a day you'll need to spend twisting grass into fuel just to survive until morning. This is what survival looks like on the frontier. Not noble, not heroic, just desperate and exhausting and humiliating. You go back inside. Laura looks up from the coffee mill where she's grinding wheat. The only food you have left besides a few shriveled potatoes. Her hands are raw, blistered from the constant grinding. She's 13 years old and her hands look like an old woman's. Pa, she asks, what are we going to do about the coal? You force a smile. We'll manage half pint, we always do. But inside, you're terrified. Because this time, you're not sure managing is enough. That night, after the children are asleep, you and Caroline sit close to the stove watching the last decent coal burn. The room is maybe 50 degrees. Your breath fogs. Frost is forming on the inside of the walls. We need to start burning hay tomorrow, you say quietly. Caroline nods. I'll help twist it. Laura and I can do it. You need to, Charles, Her voice is firm. "We all help. That's how we survive this." You look at her. This woman who married you, knowing life would be hard, who's followed you across half the country chasing dreams that never quite pan out, who's buried a son and watched another daughter go blind and never once complained. Not really, not in any way that mattered. "I'm sorry," you say. The words come out before you can stop them. She looks surprised. "For what?" "For bringing you here. For all of this." Caroline reaches over and takes your hand. Hers is rough, scarred from years of hard work. "Charles Ingalls, I married you for better or worse. This is worse, but we're still here. We're still together. That's what matters." You want to believe her. God, you want to believe that love and family are enough, but you're not sure love can twist enough hay to keep 9 people warm through 7 months of blizzards. The next morning, you and Laura go out to the prairie during a break in the weather. The snow is waist deep. You wade through it, heading to where you know there's dried slough grass poking through the drifts. The cold is so intense it burns your lungs with every breath. Laura doesn't complain. She never complains. She just follows you, helps you gather the stiff frozen grass, carries it back to town in armfuls that nearly bury her. Back inside, you show her how to twist the hay. Take a handful, twist it tight. Keep twisting until it forms a dense stick that might burn long enough to produce heat. Your hands cramp within minutes. The rough stalks cut your palms, but you keep twisting, because if you stop, the fire goes out, and if the fire goes out, you die. It's that simple, that brutal. Laura twists beside you. Caroline joins. Even Carrie tries, though her 10-year-old hands aren't strong enough to make tight bundles. Mary sits nearby, her failing eyes unable to see what she's doing, but she folds the finished bundles into neat piles so you can find them quickly. This is your life now. Every waking hour spent twisting hay and feeding it to a stove that devours it faster than you can make it. 1 bundle burns for maybe 20 minutes. Maybe. That means you need 3 bundles an hour just to keep minimal heat. That's 72 bundles a day, 72 every single day, for months. Your hands start bleeding by the end of the first day. Laura's do too, but you don't stop. You can't stop, because stopping means freezing. That night, huddled under every quilt and blanket you own, you lie awake listening to the wind howl. Grace is curled between you and Caroline, seeking warmth. The other girls are piled together in the other bed. George and Maggie Masters and their baby are on the floor, wrapped in whatever they have. 9 people in one room, burning twisted grass to stay alive, eating ground wheat because there's nothing else. And it's only November. You think about the old Indian's warning, 7 months of blizzards. If he's right, and everything so far says he is, you have 6 more months of this. Can you twist enough hay for 6 more months? Can your hands hold out? Can your sanity? You don't know. You honestly don't know. But tomorrow you'll wake up. You'll twist more hay. You'll grind more wheat. You'll keep the fire going. Because that's what fathers do. That's what men do on the frontier. They survive. Or they die trying. December brings a new terror. Watching the food disappear. You've always been aware of your supplies. Every frontier family is. You count sacks of flour, pounds of salt pork, bushels of potatoes. You know what you have, how long it should last when you need to buy more. But you've never had to calculate how many days until my children starve. The flour is gone. Completely gone. The last of it went into bread 2 weeks ago. The potatoes are nearly gone too. Just a few dozen left. And most of those are soft and sprouting. The dried meat is a memory. The butter, the coffee, the sugar, all gone. What you have left is wheat. Seed wheat. The grain you were supposed to plant in spring to grow next year's crop. You're eating your future, kernel by kernel, and you know it. But what choice do you have? Caroline rations it carefully. Each day she measures out enough wheat for 1 small loaf of bread. Laura grinds it in the coffee mill, a process that takes over an hour and leaves her arm aching. The mill wasn't designed for wheat. It jams constantly. The kernels are too hard, but it's all you have. The bread that comes out is coarse, brown, heavy. tastes like dust and bitterness. There's no salt to flavour it, no yeast to make it rise, just ground wheat mixed with water, shaped into a flat loaf. And baked on the stove, one loaf for 9 people per day. You do the math constantly. How many calories in a loaf of that bread? Maybe it's just 200. Divided by 9 people. That's about 130 calories per person per day. A grown man needs 2,000 calories a day to maintain his weight. More if he's doing physical labour, which you are. Hauling hay, twisting bundles, digging out drifts. You're burning more calories than you're consuming, every single day. Which means your body is eating itself, burning muscle and fat to stay alive. You can feel it happening. Your pants are loose. Your belt needs a new hole. When you look at Carolyn, you see her cheekbones standing out sharper than before. Laura's face is thinner. Even Grace, who gets the largest portions because she's the smallest, looks less round. You're all slowly starving. Together. The wheat supply sits in the corner, a sack that's maybe half full. You measure it one morning when no one's looking, about 20 pounds left. At the current rate, that's maybe 40 more days. 40 days until there's nothing left to grind, nothing left to eat, and the trains still aren't running. The railroad is buried under drifts that are 20, 30 feet deep in the cuts. You saw men trying to dig it out, shoveling for hours, making barely any progress. The snow is packed hard as ice. For every foot they dig, the next blizzard fills it back in. No trains means no supplies, no flour, no meat, no anything. The town is rationing collectively now. The store owners who have anything left are parcelling it out in tiny amounts. You stand in line with your neighbours, all of you hollow-eyed and thin, and receive your allotment. A few pounds of wheat kernels, sometimes a shriveled potato or two. It's not enough. It's never enough. But it's all there is. You hear rumours. Someone south of town might have wheat. A settler who planted early and harvested before the blizzard started. He might be willing to sell. Might. The word hangs in the air like smoke. Might means maybe. Maybe means hope. And hope, right now, is a dangerous thing. Because if the hope turns out to be false, the despair that follows might break you. But you cling to it anyway. Because what else is there? At night, you dream of food. Not fancy food. Not steaks or pies or anything elaborate. Just simple food. Bacon frying in a pan, the smell of fresh bread, butter melting on warm biscuits, coffee, real coffee, hot and strong. You wake up with your mouth watering and your stomach cramping, and the reality crashes back. There is no bacon, there is no butter, there is only coarse brown bread that barely fills the space where hunger lives. Grace asks you one morning, "Pa, when will we have real food again?" She's 3 years old. She doesn't understand why she's always hungry, why the meals are so small, why Mama's face looks worried all the time. You pick her up, hold her close. She weighs almost nothing. Soon, Grace, soon. Another lie. You're getting good at those. Laura knows better. She's old enough to understand the situation. She doesn't ask when things will get better. She just grinds the wheat, eats her small portion without complaint, and helps twist hay. She's becoming an adult before your eyes, hardened by circumstances no 13-year-old should have to face. It breaks your heart. But you're proud of her too. She's stronger than you were at her age. Carolyn is the quiet hero of this nightmare. She divides the bread with perfect fairness, making sure everyone gets exactly the same amount, except herself. You've noticed she takes the smallest piece, pretends she's not hungry, slips bits of her portion to Grace when she thinks no one's looking. She's starving herself to feed her children, and there's nothing you can do about it because the math is brutal. There isn't enough food. Period. You try hunting one day during a break in the weather. Take your rifle, wade through the drifts to where you've seen game in better times. But the prairie is empty. The animals have fled or died. You don't see a single rabbit, deer or bird. Just white emptiness stretching forever. You return empty-handed, frostbitten, exhausted. Caroline doesn't ask how it went. Your empty hands tell the story. That night, you sit at the table with the family for the evening meal, one slice of coarse brown bread each, some weak tea made from leaves that have been boiled 3 times already. That's it. That's dinner. Grace eats hers quickly, then looks up hopefully. More? Caroline shakes her head gently. No, sweetheart, that's all for tonight. But I'm still hungry. I know, baby. We all are. Grace starts to cry. Not a tantrum, just quiet, defeated tears. The tears of a child who doesn't understand why the adults who are supposed to protect her can't make the hunger stop. You want to rage. You want to punch the walls. You want to curse God and the weather and whoever decided Dakota Territory was fit for settlement. But instead you just sit there, useless, watching your youngest daughter cry from hunger you can't fix. This is hell, not fire and brimstone, just cold and hunger, and the slow realization that you might not be able to keep your family alive. The worst part isn't the blizzards, it's the silence between them. When the wind is howling and the snow is flying, and you're huddled around the stove feeding it hay bundles, you have something to do. You have a purpose. Fight the cold. Keep the fire going. Stay alive. But when a blizzard ends and the wind stops and the world goes silent, that's when the fear creeps in. You stand at the window, looking out at a landscape that's alien. Snow has transformed Main Street into something unrecognisable. The drifts are taller than buildings. Some houses are buried completely, just chimneys poking through the white. The street itself doesn't exist anymore. It's all just snow, packed and smooth and endless. The silence is total, oppressive, like being inside a tomb. No birds, no animals, no sound of wagons or voices or life, just silence and white and cold that seeps through the walls no matter how much hay you burn. This is what isolation feels like. Complete, absolute isolation. You're cut off from the world. The railroad is buried. The roads are impassable. You might as well be on the moon. And you don't know when it will end. That's the part that gnaws at you. If someone could tell you, this will last exactly 4 more months, you could steel yourself. You could ration accordingly. You could plan. But you don't know. Maybe the trains will run next week. Maybe they won't run until April. Maybe never. The not knowing is torture. Caroline tries to maintain routines. She makes the children do lessons, reading, arithmetic, whatever can be done without proper books or supplies. It's something to fill the endless hours, something to make the days feel purposeful. But you can see it's a struggle. Mary's eyesight is almost gone now. She can't read. She sits by the window, her face turned toward light she can barely see, and you know she's terrified. Blindness is coming for her, and there's nothing anyone can do. Laura helps with everything, grinding wheat, twisting hay, caring for Grace. She's too busy to be scared, or maybe she is scared, but she hides it well. Carrie is quiet. She's always been quiet, but now it's deeper. She barely speaks. Just does what she's told and stares at nothing. You wonder what's happening inside her head. What thoughts does a 10-year-old have when the world is ending? George Masters sits in the corner most days, smoking his pipe when he has tobacco, staring at the wall when he doesn't. His wife Maggie tends their baby and tries to help Caroline, but there's tension. 9 people in one room for months. Tensions build. Small irritations become big problems. Someone chews too loud. Someone snores. Someone takes up too much space. These things that wouldn't matter in normal times become sources of resentment when you're trapped together, cold and hungry and afraid. You try to keep peace, try to be the steady one, but inside you're crumbling too. Your fiddle sits in the corner. You haven't touched it in weeks. Music requires hope, and hope is in short supply. The fiddle represents a life where there was joy and leisure and reasons to celebrate. This isn't that life. One evening, Laura asks you to play. Please, Pa, just one song. You look at her, this girl who's become so much stronger than she should have to be, and you can't refuse. You pick up the fiddle. Your fingers are stiff from cold and the constant twisting of hay. You try a few notes. They sound rusty, off-key, but you keep playing. Slowly the music comes back. A simple tune. Nothing fancy, just melody. And something shifts in the room. Grace stops whimpering. Mary's face softens. Caroline closes her eyes, and you see tears on her cheeks. Even George Masters looks up, his haunted expression easing slightly. Music? In the middle of hell, music still matters. You play until your fingers ache. Play until the room feels a little less like a tomb and a little more like a home. Play until you remember why you keep fighting. Because these people, your family, your responsibility, they need more than food and warmth. They need reasons to believe tomorrow might be better. They need hope, even if it's false hope, especially if it's false hope. When you finally stop playing, Grace is asleep in Caroline's lap. The other children look calmer. The room feels different. "Thank you," Caroline whispers. You nod, carefully putting the fiddle away. Your hands are shaking, not from cold, from emotion you didn't know you still had. That night, another blizzard hits. The wind screams, the building shakes. Snow finds every crack and gap, forming small drifts inside the room. You feed hay to the stove, twist more bundles. Watch the wheat supply shrink. Do the math that never adds up to anything good, but something has changed. The music reminded you, you're Charles Ingalls. You've survived grasshoppers and crop failures and moves and losses. You've buried a son and watched dreams die and kept going anyway. This winter is trying to kill you, but you're not dead yet. And as long as you're alive, as long as your family's alive, there's still a chance. The wind howls, the cold presses in, the hunger gnaws, but you're still here, still fighting. It's February now, or maybe late January. You've lost track of the exact date. The days blur together into one endless cycle. Wake up cold, twist hay, grind wheat, eat bread that isn't enough, twist more hay, try to sleep through the cold, repeat. But today is different. Today, Caroline shows you the wheat sack. You can see the bottom. Your stomach drops. That sack has been your lifeline for months. As long as there was wheat, there was food. Not much food, never enough, but something. Now you can see the bottom. Maybe 10 pounds left. Maybe less. How long? You ask quietly. Caroline's face is pale. A week. Maybe 10 days if we make the loaves even smaller. 10 days. Then nothing. The reality hits you like a physical blow. In 10 days there will be no more food. None. Zero. And the trains still aren't running. The drifts are as deep as ever. The blizzards keep coming. In 10 days your family starts to actually starve. Not the slow starvation you've been enduring. Real starvation. The kind where bodies shut down and people die. You've seen starvation before. In the war. Men with hollow eyes and distended bellies and skin stretched tight over bones. Men who stopped talking, stopped caring, just waited to die. That's what's coming. For Caroline, for your children, for you, unless something changes. There has to be wheat somewhere, you say, more to yourself than to her. Where? We've asked everyone in town. Whatever they had is gone or they're saving it for themselves. What about the rumour? The settler south of town who might have seed wheat. Caroline looks at you with something like pity. Charles, that's 20 miles away through snow and blizzards, and it's just a rumour. It might not even be true, but it might be. And if you go looking and get caught in a storm, what happens to us then? She's right. You know she's right. Going out in this weather is suicide. Men have frozen to death trying to walk between buildings in town. 20 miles across open prairie, impossible. But what's the alternative? Stay here and watch your children starve? That night there's a meeting. The men of the town gather in Fuller's store, the few who are left anyway. Everyone's thin, everyone's desperate, and everyone's asking the same question. Where can we find food? Someone mentions the rumour again. A settler, name might be Whiting, might be someone else, who filed a claim south of town last year. He planted wheat, harvested it before the blizzards hit, stored it for seed. He might still have it. Might. Again. That word you've learned to hate. Who's going? Someone asks. Silence. Because everyone knows going means probably dying. 20 miles or more through blizzard country in February, when temperatures are 40 below and the next storm could hit any moment. Then a young voice speaks up. I'll go. You turn. It's Almanzo Wilder. Barely more than a boy, really. 23 years old. Strong. Capable. But still young enough to think he's invincible. I'll go with him, says Cap Garland. Another youngster. Brave or foolish, you're not sure which. The room exhales. Relief and guilt mixed together. Relief that someone else is volunteering. Guilt that you're letting boys risk their lives while you stay safe. But you have 9 people depending on you. If you go and die, they all die. These boys are single. If they die, God, you don't want to think about it. You'll need directions, you say. I'll ask around, see if anyone knows exactly where this settler lives. It's the least you can do. The only thing you can do. The boys nod. They're trying to look confident, but you see the fear in their eyes. They know the odds. When you get home, Caroline is waiting. What happened? 2 boys are going to try to find wheat. Almanzo Wilder and Cap Garland. Her face goes white. They'll die. Maybe. But if they don't go, we all die anyway. She knows you're right. The math is brutal and simple. Risk 2 lives to maybe save 75. It's the kind of calculation you never thought you'd have to make. That night you dream of food again, but this time the dream turns dark. You're eating bread, real bread, soft and warm. But when you look down, it's turning to dust in your hands. You try to hold on to it, but it crumbles away. You're left with nothing. Starving. Always starving. You wake up gasping. The room is dark, cold. You can hear everyone breathing, those slow, shallow breaths of people who aren't getting enough nutrition. You get up carefully so you don't wake Caroline. Walk to the window. Look out at the frozen wasteland that used to be a town full of promise. 2 boys are going to ride out into that tomorrow, going to gamble their lives on a rumour, and you're going to let them, because you have no choice. Because this is what the frontier does. It takes your choices away, one by one, until the only option left is desperation. You press your forehead against the cold glass. Tomorrow those boys ride, and you'll wait here with your family hoping they come back, hoping the rumour is true, hoping hope itself isn't just another lie. 10 days of wheat left, maybe less. The clock is ticking. The boys leave on a Tuesday morning. There's a break in the weather, a rare clear day with weak sunlight and temperatures that are only 20 below instead of 40. You watch them go. 2 sleds, horses straining against the packed snow. They move slowly, painfully slowly, breaking trail through drifts that swallow the horses up to their bellies. The whole town turns out to watch. Nobody says much. What is there to say? Good luck. Come back alive. Bring food, or we all die. You just stand there, watching 2 distant figures disappear into white emptiness, and you feel like the worst kind of coward. Laura's beside you. She's watching too, her face unreadable. They're brave, she says quietly. They're desperate, same as all of us. Will they make it back? You want to lie, want to say of course they will, but Laura deserves honesty. I don't know, Half Pint. I honestly don't know. Hours pass, then a day, then 2 days. No sign of the boys. The town holds its breath. Every hour someone checks the horizon, looking for movement, looking for hope. But there's nothing, just white silence. By the 3rd day, people start assuming the worst. The boys are dead, frozen in some drift, lost in a storm, gone. Which means there's no wheat coming, which means this is the end. You see it in people's faces, the hollow resignation. They're starting to accept death, starting to make peace with it. Caroline is dividing the last of the wheat even more carefully now. The loaves are getting smaller. Each person's portion barely fills their palm. Grace cries from hunger every night. Maybe another 3 days, Caroline whispers. 4 if we water it down even more. 3 days, then nothing. You've stopped doing calculations. There's no point. The math always ends the same way. Starvation. On the evening of the 3rd day, Mary suddenly speaks up. She's been so quiet lately, lost in her failing sight and her own thoughts. But now she says, "Someone's coming." You look at her. What? I can hear it. Horses and voices. You rush to the window, can't see anything in the dusk and blowing snow, but Mary's hearing has gotten sharper as her sight has faded. Then you see them. 2 shapes, moving slowly, heading toward town. The boys. They're back. The relief is so intense it makes you dizzy. You grab your coat, run outside. Half the town is already gathering. Almanzo and Cap look like ghosts. Their faces are white with frostbite. Their movements are stiff, mechanical, but they're alive. And behind their sleds, sacks. Dozens of sacks. Wheat. They found it. The rumour was true. They made the journey, found the settler, bought his seed wheat and brought it back. Against all odds, they made it. The town erupts. Not quite celebration. Everyone's too exhausted and cold for that. But relief. Raw. Overwhelming relief. You help unload the wheat. Your hands shake. 60 bushels, someone says. Maybe more. Enough to get the town through at least a few more weeks. Maybe longer if it's rationed carefully. Almanzo can barely talk. His face is frost-burned. His lips cracked and bleeding. Almost didn't make it, he rasps. Storm hit on the way back. Couldn't see anything. Horses broke through the snow crust. Thought we were done. But they weren't done. They made it. 2 boys and sheer stubborn determination brought salvation to a dying town. You buy your family's share, £25. It costs more than you can afford, but you pay it anyway because what else can you do? This is life, literal life, measured in pounds of grain. That night, Caroline grinds fresh wheat. The sound of the mill seems almost cheerful. She makes bread, still coarse, still brown, but there's more of it. Not a feast, not even a full meal, but more than you've had in days. Grace eats her portion and doesn't ask for more, even though you can see she's still hungry. She's learning. They're all learning. This is what survival looks like. Never quite enough, but not quite dying either. After dinner, you play the fiddle again. The music feels different now, less desperate. The notes carry something that's been missing. Hope. Real hope. Not just the desperate kind you manufacture to get through the next hour. You're going to make it. Maybe not comfortably. Maybe not without more hardship. But you're going to survive this winter. 2 boys risk everything to make that possible. 2 boys who didn't have to go, who could have stayed safe and rationed their own supplies and let the town starve. But they didn't. They went anyway. Later, alone with Caroline, you finally let yourself feel the emotion you've been holding back for months. We almost died, you whisper. We came so close. She takes your hand. But we didn't. We're still here. Because of those boys. Because of a lot of things. The boys. The wheat. God. Luck. All of it. You nod. She's right. Survival is never just one thing. It's 1,000 small chances and choices and moments of grace all coming together. Outside, another blizzard is starting. You can hear the wind picking up. But inside, the stove is burning. There's wheat in the corner. Your family is fed, barely, but fed. You made it through the worst. The absolute worst moment when death was days away and there seemed to be no way out. And you survived. The winter isn't over. It's only February. There are still weeks, maybe months, of cold and snow ahead. The wheat won't last forever. More hardships are coming. But tonight you survived. And tonight, that's enough. The wheat from Almanzo's journey buys you time. But time is all it buys. You're sitting at the table 3 days later doing the math again. Always the math. It never stops. 60 bushels divided among 75 people. Rationed carefully, stretched thin. How long? 6 weeks maybe. 8 if everyone's careful and nobody cheats, and no more families show up needing help. 8 weeks takes you to early April. Maybe the trains will run by then. Maybe. That word again. But here's what no one talks about. What the winter is costing beyond just food and fuel. George Masters is different. You see it in his eyes. Something has broken in him. He sits by the window for hours, not moving, barely blinking. His wife Maggie tries to pull him back, but he's somewhere else. Somewhere dark. You've seen that look before. In men during the war. Men who saw too much death. endured too much hardship, and just stopped. Their bodies kept moving, but their minds gave up. Prairie madness, some people call it. The isolation and stress and fear breaking something fundamental in the human psyche. George isn't the only one. You hear stories of other families in town. A woman who won't get out of bed anymore. A man who sits and rocks back and forth, muttering. Children who've stopped talking entirely. The winter is breaking people. Not killing them, not yet, but breaking them in ways that might never heal. And you wonder, am I breaking too? You catch yourself staring at nothing sometimes. Losing time. Caroline will ask you a question, and you'll realise you have no idea what she said. Your mind was somewhere else, somewhere blank. Your hands shake constantly now, from cold, from hunger, from twisting so much hay that your muscles are permanently cramped. You can't hold things steady anymore. And the dreams, God, the dreams, every night. You dream you're back in better times. You dream of your childhood home in New York, of warm kitchens and full tables. You dream of the farm in Kansas before the grasshoppers came. You dream of moments when life felt hopeful. And then you wake up to reality. A freezing room, hungry children, diminishing supplies, and no end in sight. The contrast between dream and reality is torture. Some mornings, you almost wish you hadn't woken up. But you can't think that way. Can't let that darkness in. Because if you give up, everyone depending on you is doomed. So you get up, twist hay, grind wheat, keep moving, keep fighting. One morning in late February, Mary has a seizure. It comes out of nowhere. She's sitting quietly like always, and suddenly she's on the floor convulsing. Her eyes roll back. Foam appears at her mouth. Caroline and Maggie rush to her, hold her down so she doesn't hurt herself. You stand there, frozen, useless. You've never seen anything like this. The seizure lasts maybe a minute, maybe less. Feels like forever. When it stops, Mary is limp, unconscious. Caroline cradles her, tears streaming down her face. "What's wrong with her?" Grace asks, frightened. You don't have an answer. How do you explain that malnutrition and stress are destroying her body? That her brain, starved of proper nutrition, is misfiring? Mary wakes up an hour later. She doesn't remember the seizure, doesn't know what happened. "I'm fine, Ma," she says weakly. "Just tired." But she's not fine. None of you are fine. Caroline pulls you aside later. She needs a doctor, real food. She needs more than we can give her. I know. Charles? What if she dies? The question hangs in the air. What if she dies? What if any of them die? What if this winter takes your children one by one while you stand by helplessly? She won't die, you say firmly. We're going to make it through this. All of us. Another lie. You're getting very good at those. But what else can you do? Tell Caroline you're terrified. That you lie awake calculating which child you could bear to lose first if it came to that. That you've caught yourself thinking about how much longer the food would last with one less mouth to feed. Those thoughts come at night in the darkest hours, and they shame you. What kind of father thinks such things? But hunger does terrible things to the mind, makes you think thoughts you'd never imagine in normal times. Brutal, survival-oriented thoughts. The snow keeps falling. The wind keeps blowing. The wheat supply keeps shrinking. And you keep twisting hay, keep grinding wheat, keep telling everyone it'll be okay. But inside you're dying. Not physically, not yet, but something essential is dying. Some core part of who Charles Ingalls used to be. You were a man who moved his family west seeking better opportunities. A man who believed hard work and determination could overcome anything. A man who played fiddle and told stories and kept spirits high. That man is disappearing, being replaced by someone harder, colder, someone who counts calories and measures wheat, and looks at his family and sees mouths to feed instead of people to love. You hate who you're becoming, but you can't stop it. The winter is changing you, and you don't know if you'll ever change back. One evening, Laura catches you staring at the wheat sack again. "Pa, are we going to be okay?" You look at her. This girl who's lost her childhood to this nightmare, who's worked like an adult, who's never complained even once. And you want to tell her the truth, that you don't know, that every day feels like borrowed time, that you're so tired and scared and broken that you can barely function. But instead, you smile. We're going to be fine, Half Pint. We always are. She looks at you for a long moment, and you realise she knows you're lying. She's known all along, but she nods anyway, goes back to grinding wheat, plays along with the pretense that everything's under control, because that's what this family does. You lie to each other. Carefully, lovingly, you construct this fiction that you're fine, you're managing, you're going to make it. And maybe if you all believe the lie hard enough, it'll become true. Outside, March arrives, the blizzards continue, the cold doesn't relent, but you're still alive. Damaged, broken, hanging by a thread, but alive. And that's going to have to be enough. March. The cruelest month. Not because it's the coldest. February was colder. Not because it's the snowiest. January probably wins that distinction. But because March is when you're supposed to see signs of spring. When the promise of warmth and renewal should be appearing. Instead, the blizzards keep coming. You're Charles Ingalls, and you're losing count. How many storms has it been? 40? 50? They blur together now. The sky goes grey. The wind picks up, the snow flies, and you retreat inside to twist more hay and wait it out. Again, and again, and again. The wheat from the journey is half gone now. You measure it compulsively. Every morning you look at that sack and calculate. At current consumption, 3 more weeks, maybe 4. 4 weeks to April. Will the trains run by then? Will spring finally come? You've learned not to hope too hard. Hope hurts when it's crushed. Better to expect nothing. That way, disappointment can't break you. But you can't quite kill hope entirely. It's stubborn, persistent. It whispers in the dark hours. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. Maybe this is the last storm. And every time the hope is wrong, it cuts a little deeper. Caroline is quiet now most days. She does her work, measuring wheat, managing the household, caring for the children, but without speaking much. She's gone somewhere inside herself where the cold and hunger can't reach. You understand? You've gone there too. It's the only way to survive. Turn yourself off, become automatic. Don't think about how hungry you are or how much your hands hurt or how desperately you want this to end. Just survive, hour by hour, day by day. Mary had another seizure last week. Shorter this time, but it still terrified everyone. She's weak now, spending most days in bed. Her blindness is nearly complete. She can sense light and dark, but shapes are gone. Her world is shadows. Laura has become your right hand. She's stronger than you in some ways, more resilient. While you're battling despair, she just keeps working. Grinding wheat, twisting hay, caring for Grace. Never complaining, never breaking. You don't know where she gets her strength, but you're grateful for it. If Laura collapsed, you're not sure you could keep going. One morning there's a brief break in the weather. Not warm, it's still well below 0, but clear. You venture outside with some other men to check the railroad. The drifts are mountainous, 20, 30 feet high in the cuts. The tracks are somewhere underneath all that white, but you can't see them, can't even guess where they are. We could dig, someone suggests half-heartedly. You all know it's pointless. You'd need 100 men with shovels working for weeks to clear even a mile of track, and the next blizzard would fill it all back in anyway. The railroad is dead. It's not coming back until spring truly arrives, and spring is refusing to come. Walking back to town, you pass a building that's partially collapsed. The weight of snow on the roof was too much. The timbers gave way. No one was inside, thankfully. But it's a reminder. The winter isn't just starving you. It's destroying the town itself. Buildings collapsing, structures weakening, everything slowly being crushed under the weight of endless snow. How much weight can you bear before you collapse too? That evening, someone knocks on your door. It's Fuller, the store owner. Charles, we need to talk about rationing. Your stomach sinks. You know what this means. Inside, Fuller explains, "The collective wheat supply is running lower than expected. Some families have been taking more than their share. Others have been hoarding. The math no longer adds up. We need to cut rations again," he says. "Starting tomorrow, each family gets 20% less. 20% less. You're already barely eating enough to function. 20% less might be the difference between slow starvation and fast starvation. But what choice is there? If some families get more, others get nothing." This is the frontier version of triage. You nod. "We'll manage." After Fuller leaves, you sit with Caroline and explain. 20% less, she repeats flatly. "The loaves are already so small." "I know." "Charles, I don't know if we can survive on that." "We have to." She looks at you with eyes that have seen too much. When does have to become can't? You don't answer. Because you don't know. You honestly don't know where the line is between survival and death. You just know you haven't crossed it yet. That night, the portions are smaller, Grace cries. Carrie stares at her plate with hollow eyes. Mary doesn't eat hers at all, says she's not hungry, which is an obvious lie. She's trying to give her portion to her sisters. "Mary, eat," Carolyn says firmly. "I don't want it." "Eat it anyway. You need strength." Mary reluctantly picks at the bread. But you can tell she's forcing every bite down. This is what you've become. A family fighting over scraps, measuring out survival in crumbs. You think about the homestead claim sitting empty outside town. 160 acres of land that was supposed to be your future, your legacy. What good is land if you die before spring? What good are dreams if hunger kills them first? That night, you don't play the fiddle. You're too tired, too defeated. The music that used to lift spirits feels impossible now. How can you create joy when there is none? You lie in bed, listening to your family breathe, shallow breaths, weak breaths. The breaths of people running on empty, and you think, we're not going to make it. For the first time, you really believe it. This winter is going to kill you. Maybe not all of you. Maybe some will survive, but not everyone. The math doesn't work. The supplies won't last. Something has to give. You fall asleep with that darkness pressing down, and you dream of nothing. No food dreams. No memories of better times. Just black, empty nothing. Maybe that's what death feels like. Maybe you're already partway there. Late March. The wheat sack shows bottom again. This time there's no journey to make. No rumour of a settler with supplies. This is it. The last of the food. When this runs out, there's nothing else. You do the math one final time. 5 pounds left, 9 people. If you make the loaves as small as possible and stretch it with water, 3 days, maybe 4, then starvation. Real, actual starvation. Not the gradual wasting you've been experiencing. The final stage where bodies shut down and people die. You don't tell Caroline the calculation. She can see the sack as well as you can. She knows. The whole town knows. Everyone's in the same situation. The collective supply is nearly exhausted. A few families might have small private stashes, but mostly it's over. People are making preparations, not for survival, for death. Reverend Brown is holding daily services now. People are confessing sins, making peace with God. Some are writing letters they'll never be able to mail, last words for family members back east who won't receive them until spring, when it's too late. The mood in town is acceptance, resignation. This is how it ends, frozen in a Dakota winter. Another pioneer story that ends in tragedy. You refuse to accept it. "We're not dying," you tell Caroline. "Charles, we're not. There has to be something somewhere." "Where? We've looked everywhere. There's nothing left." Then we find something else to eat. "Like what?" You don't have an answer. What else is there? You can't eat hay, can't eat snow. The land is frozen solid. No digging for roots, no animals to hunt. But there has to be something. Because the alternative is unacceptable. That day you go to every building in town asking if anyone has anything at all. A forgotten sack of flour, some dried beans, anything. Most doors don't even open. The people inside are too weak to answer or too possessive of whatever tiny supplies they might have left. One man, you don't even know his name, opens his door a crack. He's gaunt, skeletal. His eyes are sunken so deep you can barely see them. "Do you have any food?" you ask. He laughs. It's a horrible sound like bones rattling. "Do I look like I have food?" You move on. At Daniel Loftus's store, you find the owner sitting behind his empty counter. "Nothing left," he says before you can ask. "Sold the last handful of wheat yesterday. Got a good price for it too." You stare at him. He sold wheat at a markup, profited from people's desperation. In normal times, you might say that's good business. Right now, it makes you want to hit him, but violence won't create food, so you leave. Walking back through town, you see a man trying to dig in his yard. The ground is frozen solid, but he's chipping away with a pick, trying to find anything buried underneath. Potatoes maybe, or roots. He's been digging for hours. You can see the tiny depression he's managed to make, maybe 6 inches deep. He'll die of exhaustion before he finds anything, but you understand. You're all grasping at impossible hopes now, doing things that make no sense because doing nothing means giving up. And if you give up, you're dead. That night, Caroline serves the smallest portions yet. Each person gets maybe 2 ounces of bread. 3 bites, that's dinner. Grace doesn't cry anymore. She's past that. She just eats her tiny portion in silence and then lies down, staring at nothing. 3 years old. She should be playing, laughing, being a child. Instead, she's starving to death. You go to the window, stare out at the frozen wasteland. The moon is up, reflecting off endless white. It's beautiful in a terrible way, like a tomb. Behind you, Laura is measuring out tomorrow's wheat. She's trying to make it stretch, mixing it with more water, adding something. You don't know what. Sawdust, maybe. Anything to add bulk. She's 14 years old. She should be learning to dance, thinking about boys, having a childhood. Instead, she's calculating how to delay death by 1 more day. You think about all the choices that led here. Leaving Wisconsin, leaving Kansas, coming to Dakota Territory. Each move made with hope, each move believing the next place would be better. And now you're here, starving in a frozen town, watching your children die slowly. Was it worth it? All the moving, all the trying, all the failing. You don't know anymore. Caroline comes to stand beside you. She doesn't say anything, just takes your hand. Her hand is bones, no flesh left, just skin stretched over bones. "I'm sorry," you whisper, you did your best. It wasn't enough. It's never enough out here. The land takes everything. You turn to face her. Even in the dim light you can see how thin she is, how worn. This woman who's been your partner through everything, who's never blamed you, never complained. "I love you," you say. "I know, I love you too." It feels like goodbye, like you're both acknowledging what's coming. But then Grace calls out, "Pa, I'm cold." And just like that, the moment is over, because there's still today to survive, still tonight to get through, still 1 more morning to wake up and keep fighting. You go to Grace, wrap her in another quilt. She's so small, so fragile. "Sleep, baby girl, tomorrow will be better." The lie comes automatically now, but Grace doesn't believe it. "Will we die, Pa?" The question stops you cold. How do you answer that? How honest can you be with a 3-year-old? "No, sweetheart, we're not going to die. Your pa's going to figure something out." "Promise?" You hesitate, then, "I promise." Another lie. But what else can you do? Grace closes her eyes. Within minutes she's asleep. The sleep of exhaustion. Of a body conserving every scrap of energy it has left. You sit there, holding your youngest daughter, and you make a vow. Somehow, you'll keep that promise. You don't know how, but you'll find a way. You have to. You wake to silence. Not the usual silence of winter mornings, wind and creaking timbers and shallow breathing. Complete silence. Something's wrong. You sit up carefully, trying not to wake Caroline. The room is dim, but lighter than usual. Why? Then you realize the wind has stopped. For the first time in months, the wind isn't howling. The building isn't shaking. There's no sound of snow pelting the windows. You go to the window, look out. The sky's clear. Actually clear. Blue, not grey. And the sun is rising, bright and warm-looking. Warm. The word feels foreign. You've forgotten what warm means. You step outside, and the air hits your face. Still cold, well below freezing, but different. Not the brutal, lung-burning cold you've endured for months. This is sharp, clean cold, spring cold. Other people are emerging from buildings. Everyone looks around in disbelief. Clear sky, no wind, sunshine. Is it over? Someone asks. You don't answer, because you're afraid to say yes, afraid that hoping will curse it, that tomorrow the blizzards will return and this will have been just a cruel tease, but the sun keeps rising, the sky stays clear, and you feel something you haven't felt in months, warmth on your face, actual warmth. The sun is weak, but it's there, real. After all this darkness and cold, the sun is shining. Hours pass, the clear weather holds, the temperature even rises a bit, not much, but enough. Enough that the snow on the roof starts to melt slightly. Enough that you can breathe without pain. By afternoon, people are venturing out. Not far, no one trusts this weather, but out. Walking the buried streets. Talking to neighbours they haven't seen in weeks. You find Fuller. Think the trains will run? Maybe. If this weather holds, they might try to dig out. How long? Days? Weeks? Don't know. You nod. Because days or weeks doesn't matter. What matters is that there's hope again. Real hope, not the desperate kind. That evening as the sun sets, a sunset you can actually see, not hidden behind storm clouds, you gather the family. The weather's clearing, you say. Spring is coming. We made it. The words feel almost dangerous to say out loud, like you're tempting fate. But you say them anyway, because your family needs to hear it, needs to believe. Grace smiles for the first time in weeks. Mary's face relaxes. Even Laura, who's been so strong throughout, looks close to tears. We really made it, Grace asks. We really did. Caroline puts her arms around you. She's shaking. Not from cold, from relief so intense it's overwhelming. You made it. Through the worst winter on record. Through starvation and cold and despair. Through moments when death seemed certain. You survived. That night you play the fiddle. The music comes easier now. The notes carry joy instead of just desperate hope. And outside the clear sky is full of stars. It's late April. The sky's been clear for a week now. Not just one day, 7 days. 7 days without a blizzard. 7 days of temperatures slowly climbing above freezing. You're Charles Ingalls, and you're standing outside feeling something you'd almost forgotten existed. Hope. Real hope. Not the desperate clinging to life hope you've been manufacturing for months. Actual, tangible hope that this nightmare is ending. The snow is melting, slowly, but melting. You can see bare ground in places, patches of brown earth that look almost obscene after months of nothing but white. Water is running in the streets, forming little streams and puddles. The sound of dripping water is everywhere. It's the most beautiful sound you've ever heard. People are emerging from buildings like ghosts, pale, thin, blinking in the sunlight. Everyone looks skeletal. Everyone has that hollow-eyed stare of people who've been through trauma. But everyone's smiling, fragile, tentative smiles, like they're afraid if they smile too hard, winter will come back. You walk to where the railroad tracks should be. The snow is still deep in the cuts, 20 feet in places, but men are working, digging, chipping away at ice-packed snow with picks and shovels. Inch by inch, they're uncovering the rails. How long? You ask one of them. He wipes sweat from his face. Week, maybe 2. The main line is almost clear east of here. Once we finish this section, trains can run. A week, 2 at most. Then supplies will come. Food, coal, everything the town has been without for months. You can make it another week. The week will last. Everyone will last. You made it. Back at the building, Caroline is cooking. Actually cooking. She found a few potatoes you'd forgotten about, sprouted and soft but edible. She's making a soup with water and the last bit of wheat flour and these sad potatoes. Smells like heaven. Grace is playing. Actually playing. Not just lying listlessly in bed. She's weak. They all are. But she's moving around, talking, being a 3-year-old again. Mary is sitting by the window, her face turned toward the sun she can barely see. But she's smiling. That gentle, peaceful smile that says she feels the warmth, feels the promise of spring. Laura is grinding wheat. Still that endless grinding. But there's energy in her movements now. Purpose. Not the dead automatic motions of survival, but actual work being done with the knowledge that it's temporary. Soon there will be real food. Soon this will be over. Carrie is helping Caroline. Her thin hands carefully cutting the potatoes into small pieces. She's quiet like always, but there's colour in her cheeks. Just a little. Just enough. You sit at the table and Caroline serves the soup. It's thin, barely more than flavoured water, but it's warm and there's enough for everyone to have a full bowl. You say grace. Thank God for bringing them through. Thank him for spring. Thank him for survival. And for the first time in months, you mean it. It's not just words you're saying because you're supposed to. You actually feel grateful. Grateful to be alive. Grateful that your family is alive. Pa? Grace asks. Can we go outside tomorrow? Yes, sweetheart, we can go outside. And will there be food soon? Real food? Very soon. The trains are coming. She nods, satisfied. Goes back to her soup. That night you play the fiddle. Not because you have to, not because the family needs morale, but because you want to. Because there's joy again, however small and fragile. You play the old songs, the happy songs. Songs about sunshine and green grass and growing things. Songs that haven't felt true for 7 months. The music fills the small room, and something shifts. The oppressive weight that's been pressing down since October, it lifts. Not completely, but enough. Enough to breathe. Enough to believe. Enough to start thinking about the future again. Outside the wind blows, but it's a different wind. Not the brutal, killing wind of winter. A spring wind. Cool, but not cold, carrying the scent of melting snow and wet earth. The prairie is waking up, and so are you. May 6th, 1881. The day you've been waiting for since December. Someone shouts, "Train! The train's coming!" The whole town pours into the street. Everyone. People who've been too weak to leave their homes for weeks are stumbling out, leaning on each other, desperate to see. You grab Caroline's hand, run toward the tracks. Your legs are weak. Months of malnutrition have left you shaky, but you run anyway. And then you hear it. The most beautiful sound in the world. A train whistle. Distant, but getting closer. People are crying. Grown men standing in the mud, tears streaming down their faces, watching the eastern horizon. And then you see it. A black dot. Smoke rising. Getting bigger. The locomotive pushing through the last section of cleared track, moving slowly but steadily toward De Smet. The train is coming. After 4.5 months of isolation, the train is finally coming. It pulls into town and stops with a hiss of steam. The conductor steps down, looks at the crowd of skeletal people surrounding his train, and his face goes pale. "Jesus Christ," he whispers. "What happened here?" "Winter," someone says simply. The conductor nods slowly. Then he turns and starts directing his crew. Unload everything. These people need supplies now. Crates start coming off the train. Food, flour, real flour, salt pork, dried beans, coffee, sugar. Things you've dreamed about for months. The store owners are there taking delivery, making lists, already figuring out how to distribute fairly. But the conductor waves them off. First load's free, compliments of the railroad. We'll sort out payment later. Get these people fed. You want to argue. You've never taken charity. You're a proud man, but you're too hungry, too exhausted, too grateful. You accept a sack of flour, some beans, a small amount of salt pork, Coffee. Real coffee. Caroline is crying. I can make bread. Real bread. That night the Ingalls family eats. Really eats. Not the thin, brown, coarse bread that's been your only food for months. Real wheat bread, made with real flour. Beans cooked with salt pork. The fat and protein taste so rich it's almost overwhelming. Grace eats until she's sick. Her stomach, shrunken from months of near starvation, can't handle real food. She throws up, cries, wants more anyway. Slowly, Caroline warns. We have to eat slowly. Our bodies aren't used to this. It's torture. Having food, real, delicious food, and having to force yourself to eat small amounts. But Caroline's right. Too much too fast will make everyone sick. You sip coffee. Real, hot, strong coffee. It burns your tongue and you don't care. It's the best thing you've ever tasted. Laura is eating bread like it's the most precious substance on earth, taking tiny bites, savouring every crumb. Mary is smiling, tears running down her face as she chews. You made it, all of you, through the worst winter on record, through starvation and cold and despair. You made it. But there's a cost. You can see it in everyone's faces. This winter changed you. All of you. Changed the whole town. George Masters is worse. He barely touched the food tonight. Just sat staring at the wall. Maggie tried to coax him to eat, but he wouldn't. He's somewhere else now. Somewhere the winter took him that he can't come back from. Other families are the same. You hear stories. A woman who hasn't spoken since February. A man who can't stop shaking. Children who wake up screaming about the cold. The winter broke something in people, and you don't know if it can be fixed. But tonight, you push those thoughts away. Tonight, you're just grateful. Grateful for food. Grateful for warmth. Grateful that your family survived intact. Over the next few days, more trains come. Supplies flood into town. The stores restock. People start buying food with money instead of just rationing whatever's left. Life is returning, slowly, tentatively, but returning. You walk out to the homestead claim. The shanty is still there, buried partially in snow but intact. The land is soggy with meltwater, but underneath, you can see soil. Good soil. You can farm this, you can build on this, you can make a life here. Maybe. Or maybe you've learnt your lesson. Maybe Dakota Territory is too harsh, too unforgiving. Maybe it's time to move on again. But where would you go? You're 45 years old. You've moved your family half a dozen times. Every place has its problems. Every place has its hardships. At least here, you own land. You have a claim, something permanent, something you can build on. If you can survive the winters, you stand there, looking at 160 acres of wet prairie, and you make a decision. You're staying. Not because it's easy, not because you're sure it's the right choice, but because you're tired of running, tired of starting over. This is home now, for better or worse. You'll rebuild, you'll plant crops, you'll survive the next winter because there will be another winter, and another, and you'll face each one because that's what you do. You survive. Late May. The prairie is green now, grass is growing, wildflowers are blooming. The transformation is almost obscene. From white death to green life in a matter of weeks, but the scars remain. You're at a town meeting. Every family in De Smet is here. About 50 people left. That's it. 50 out of the 75 who started the winter. Some families left as soon as the train started running, packed up whatever they could carry and fled east, back to Minnesota or Iowa or wherever they came from, back to places where winter doesn't try to kill you. You don't blame them. Others stayed. The stubborn ones. The ones like you who've invested too much to leave. The ones who believe, or need to believe, that this winter was an aberration, that it won't happen again. The meeting is about recovery, about how to move forward. We need to prepare better, someone says. If another winter like that comes, it won't, someone else interrupts. That was a once-in-a-lifetime thing. The old Indian said 21 years. We're safe for another 2 decades. But what if he was wrong? What if it happens again in 5 years? The room goes quiet, because nobody wants to think about that. Nobody wants to imagine going through another long winter. Finally, Fuller speaks up. We build bigger stores. We keep more supplies on hand. We don't depend on the railroad. People nod. It makes sense. But it also costs money. And after a winter with no income, no sales, no business, nobody has money. We'll figure it out, you say. We always do. But you're not sure you believe it anymore. After the meeting, you walk home slowly. Your body's still weak. Real food has helped. But months of malnutrition don't heal overnight. You get tired easily. Your hands still shake. Caroline is the same. She's cooking again, managing the household, but she moves slowly, carefully, like she's afraid she might break. Mary is recovering physically, but her blindness is complete now. The sickness that took her sight finished its work during the winter. She'll never see again. She's learning to navigate by touch and sound, but it's hard. Terrifying for a 16-year-old girl. Laura is the strongest. She bounced back fast. Within days of the first train, she was her old self. Energetic, curious, resilient. She's working now, taking in sewing, earning money to help the family, 14 years old and already one of the primary breadwinners. Carrie is quiet. Quieter than before, if that's possible. She doesn't talk about the winter, doesn't talk about anything much, just does her chores and stays close to Caroline and Grace. Sweet, innocent Grace, who's now 4 years old. She doesn't remember much of the winter. It's already fading for her, becoming a blur. In a few years she might not remember it at all. Lucky her. You remember everything. Every hungry night, every frozen morning, every calculation about whether the wheat would last, every moment of terror that your family would die. You'll remember for the rest of your life. Late at night you wake up sometimes in a panic, your heart racing, convinced you're still in that frozen room, still watching supplies dwindle, still waiting for death. Then you realize it's over. It's May. It's warm. There's food. Everyone survived. But the panic doesn't fully go away. It sits there, in your chest, a constant reminder that safety is temporary, that winter will come again, that hardship is always waiting. One evening, you're sitting outside with Caroline. The sun is setting. The sky is pink and gold. It's beautiful. Do you regret it, you ask, coming here? She's quiet for a long time, then, ask me in 20 years. You nod. That's fair. You can't judge a place by its worst moment. You have to see how the whole story plays out. I'm sorry, you say, for all of it. Charles, you didn't control the weather. You didn't cause the blizzards. But I brought us here. I chose this. We chose this. Together. You take her hand. Thin, scarred, work-worn, but still strong. Still Caroline. We made it, she says softly. That's what matters. We made it. And she's right. Against all odds, against nature's worst fury, you made it. Your family is alive, damaged, traumatized, changed, but alive. That has to count for something. The sun dips below the horizon. Darkness comes, but not the terrible darkness of winter. Soft, spring darkness. Warm. Safe. You sit there with your wife, holding her hand, and you let yourself believe it's going to be okay. Maybe not easy. Probably not easy. But okay. You'll rebuild. You'll farm. You'll survive whatever comes next. Because that's what Ingalls do. They survive. Summer arrives. The prairie explodes with life. Grass grows tall. Crops sprout. The sun beats down hot and relentless. And after 7 months of brutal cold, you welcome every scorching minute. You're Charles Ingalls, and you're ploughing your homestead claim. The work is hard. Your body is still recovering from the winter. Every muscle aches. But it feels good to be working land you own. Land that's yours. The crop goes in late. You didn't have the strength to plant in early May like you should have. But it's in. Wheat, mostly. Some corn. You'll see what survives. As you work, you think about the winter. You can't help it. It's always there, lurking in the back of your mind. The lessons it taught. The truths it revealed. Lesson 1. You're not as self-sufficient as you thought. All your life, you've prided yourself on independence, on being able to provide for your family through your own hard work and ingenuity. But the long winter proved that was a myth. You survived because of the railroad bringing wheat, because of Almanzo and Cap risking their lives, because of community cooperation and rationing and shared sacrifice. Not because Charles Ingalls was tough enough or smart enough or hard-working enough. You survived because people helped each other, and that stings your pride. Lesson 2. The frontier is more dangerous than you admitted. You've always downplayed the risks. Told yourself and your family that it would be fine, that hard work and determination would overcome any obstacle, but some obstacles can't be overcome by willpower alone. Some winters are too brutal. Some circumstances are beyond your control. The frontier kills people. It almost killed you. And you brought your family into that danger because you believed in a myth of pioneer invincibility. Lesson 3. You're getting older. You're 45. Not old exactly, but not young anymore either. And the winter took a toll. Your hands don't work quite right anymore. Your energy isn't what it was. You get winded easily. How many more times can you start over? How many more relocations, more fresh starts, more risks? Maybe this has to be the last one. Maybe De Smet has to work because you don't have another try left in you. These thoughts circle your mind as you plough, row after row, thinking, worrying, trying to figure out what it all means. Laura brings you water and lunch. She's working too, sewing for neighbours, earning money. She's growing up fast, too fast. She should be playing, learning, being a child. Instead, she's helping support the family. And you hate that. Hate that your children have to work because you can't provide enough on your own. Pa, she says, you okay? You force a smile. Fine, half-pint, just thinking. About the winter? Smart girl, always has been. Yeah. Are we going to be okay? It's the question that matters, the one everyone's asking. Are we going to be okay? Yes, you say firmly. We're going to be fine. How do you know? And that stops you, because you don't know. You're guessing, hoping, praying. But you don't know. Because we have to be, you finally say, because giving up isn't an option. Laura nods, accepts that answer, even though it's not really an answer at all. She heads back to town. You go back to ploughing. That evening there's another town meeting. This one is different. The survivors, the 50 families who stayed, are making plans, long-term plans, building a proper church, establishing a real school, creating businesses beyond just the general stores, making De Smet a permanent town, not just a railroad stop. You volunteer to help build the church. It feels important, symbolic. If you're building a church, it means you're staying, putting down roots, committing to this place. The work begins in June. Men who are still recovering from winter malnutrition hauling lumber and hammering nails. It's slow. Everyone's still weak, but it gets done. By July there's a church building, simple, small, but real. The first service is emotional. People who survived hell together, now praising God together, thanking Him for deliverance, asking for strength to face whatever comes next. You sit with Caroline and the girls. Mary can't see the church, but she can feel it. The solid walls, the wooden pews, the permanence. We're staying, she says. Statement, not question. Yes, we're staying. Good, she says simply. And maybe that's all the validation you need. Your family's on board. They're willing to try, to build a life here despite everything. So you'll try too. August. The crops are growing. Not great. You planted late and the drought is already starting. But growing. You'll get some harvest. Maybe not enough to sell, but enough to feed the family through winter. And that's the calculation now. Everything is measured against winter, against the possibility that it could happen again. You've stockpiled supplies, bought extra flour and beans and salt pork while they're available. Caroline has them stored carefully, rationed, ready, just in case. Everyone in town is doing the same. The general stores are selling out of supplies faster than usual because everyone's preparing, remembering, building a buffer against catastrophe. But there are costs. Costs you're only starting to see. George Masters left in June, packed up Maggie and the baby and took the train east. Didn't say goodbye, just left. The winter broke him. You could see it in his eyes during those final weeks. He was gone. Not physically, but mentally. Whatever part of him that could cope with hardship just shattered. Maggie tried to hold things together, tried to help him recover, but some damage can't be fixed. So they left. Another family added to the count of those who couldn't survive De Smet. You wonder how many more will leave before next winter. How many are just waiting for a good excuse to give up and go? There are other costs too, psychological ones. Carrie still doesn't talk much. She has nightmares. You hear her crying at night sometimes. Caroline goes to her, holds her, but it doesn't seem to help much. She's 10 years old and traumatized, and you don't know how to fix that. Mary is adapting to blindness, but it's hard. She was always so independent. Now she has to rely on others for everything. She tries to hide her frustration, but you can hear it in her voice. The winter didn't just take her sight, it took her confidence, her future, the life she thought she'd have. And what can you offer her? Blind girls on the frontier don't have many options. She can't farm, can't do most traditional women's work, can't marry easily. What man wants a blind wife? There's a school for the blind in Iowa, state-funded, free. Caroline heard about it from someone. Mary could go there, learn skills, have opportunities, but it means sending your daughter away, months, maybe years away from family, alone in a strange place. The decision tears at you. But what choice is there? Give her a chance at a life, or keep her home where she'll be dependent forever? It's another cost, another price the winter extracted. Laura seems fine, resilient as ever. But you catch her sometimes, staring at nothing, her face blank. Lost in memories of hunger and cold and fear. She doesn't talk about it, doesn't complain, just works harder, helps more, pushes forward. But you know it affected her, changed her, made her harder, less trusting of easy promises and optimistic predictions. She's 14 and already more cynical than you ever were. And Grace. Grace seems mostly okay. She doesn't remember details, just vague impressions of being cold and hungry. The specifics have faded, which is a mercy. But she's clingy now, won't let Caroline out of her sight, panics if she wakes up and Caroline isn't there. Some primal part of her remembers and fears. As for you and Caroline, you're functioning, going through the motions, working, managing the household, raising the children. But the intimacy is strained. The easy partnership you used to have feels forced now. You're both carrying trauma you don't know how to share, pain you can't articulate. You almost lost each other, almost lost everything. And that knowledge sits between you like a wall you can't quite climb over. One night in late August, you're sitting outside. Caroline joins you. "We can't do that again," she says. "I know. If another winter like that comes, we'll be prepared. We have supplies now. We know what to expect." "Charles," her voice is firm, "we can't do that again. I mean it. I can't watch my children starve again. I can't live through that terror again." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying if it happens again, if next winter is bad, we leave. We take the first train east and we don't come back. It's an ultimatum. The first real one she's ever given you. And you realize she means it. She's reached her limit. One more winter like the long winter and she's done. "Okay," you say quietly. "If it's that bad again, we leave." She nods, satisfied. A boundary has been set. You sit there together in the summer heat, both thinking about winter. Always thinking about winter. Even in August with the sun blazing, winter haunts you. It will always haunt you. September comes, harvest time. You bring in the wheat, not much, but some. Enough to add to your supplies. Enough to make you feel slightly safer about the coming winter. The town is different now. The survivors have formed bonds. You've been through hell together. That creates a connection that can't be broken. People help each other more, Share resources more freely. Check on neighbours regularly. Everyone knows we survive together or we don't survive at all. The railroad is reliable again. Trains come through daily. Supplies flow. No one takes it for granted anymore. Everyone remembers what happens when the trains stop. In October, the anniversary of when it all began, there's an unofficial memorial. No one planned it. But people just naturally gather. Stand outside. Look at the sky. Remember, 1 year ago, the first blizzard hit. 1 year ago, the nightmare began. The sky is clear today. Blue. Beautiful. No sign of storms. Maybe this year will be different. Maybe the old Indian was right and it was a 21-year cycle and you're safe now. Or maybe it could happen again any time. You don't know. No one knows. That's the hardest part. The uncertainty. You've made your peace with staying. This is home now. For better or worse, you're committed to De Smet, to the homestead, to building a permanent life here. The town is growing. New families are arriving. People who didn't experience the long winter. People who hear there's cheap land in Dakota Territory and come seeking opportunities. You want to warn them, want to tell them what winter can be like, but you don't. Because maybe they'll be lucky. Maybe they'll never experience what you experienced. And if they do, well, they'll learn, just like you learned. Mary is leaving in 2 weeks, going to the Iowa College for the Blind. It's been decided. She's scared but trying to be brave. You're heartbroken but trying to hide it. She needs to go. It's the right choice. But it means your daughter will be hundreds of miles away in a world you can't protect her from. "I'll be okay, Pa," she says, sensing your worry despite her blindness. "I know you will. You're strong." "Stronger than you know." "I learned from you." The words hit you hard because you don't feel strong. You feel like a man who barely survived, who made mistakes, who got lucky. But if Mary thinks you're strong, if she learned something valuable from you, maybe that's enough. Laura is teaching school now. At 14, she's technically too young, but the town needs teachers and she's educated enough. So they've hired her. Your teenage daughter is teaching children, earning a salary, contributing to the family in a real substantial way. You're proud and ashamed. Proud of her capability, ashamed that she has to work instead of just being young. But this is frontier life. Children grow up fast, take on adult responsibilities early. That's just how it is. Caroline is stronger now. The summer helped. Good food, warm weather, work to keep her busy. She's regaining weight, regaining energy. But she's changed. Harder, more practical, less patient with your dreams and optimistic plans. The winter burned the romanticism out of her, left her practical and focused on survival. Nothing else matters much anymore. As October fades and November approaches, the anxiety builds. Everyone feels it. The collective held breath, waiting to see if this winter will be normal or catastrophic. The first snow falls in mid-November. Light, normal. It melts within days. The town exhales. Maybe it'll be okay. Maybe it's a regular winter. Days pass, weeks. The weather stays normal. Cold, but not brutally so. Snow, but manageable amounts. The trains keep running. By December, people start to relax, start to believe that last year was the aberration, that this year is normal. You want to believe it too, but part of you, the part that lived through the long winter, will never fully relax again. We'll always be watching the sky, always calculating supplies, always preparing for disaster. That's what the winter took from you. Not just your health or your savings or your peace of mind, but your ability to feel truly safe. You'll spend the rest of your life waiting for the next catastrophe, the next test, the next winter that tries to kill you. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that wariness will keep you alive, keep your family alive. Maybe the long winter's greatest lesson was simple. Never feel too safe. Never stop preparing. Never take survival for granted. It's a hard lesson, a brutal one, but it's one you'll never forget. Years pass. The long winter becomes history, a story people tell. The winter of 1880-81, when the blizzards never stopped and the town almost died. You're Charles Ingalls. Older now, grey in your beard, hands that don't work quite right anymore, but still here, still in De Smet. You never left, despite the trauma, despite the fear, despite everything. You stayed. The homestead proved up. You own 160 acres outright now. It's yours. Not great land, not easy land, but yours. The town grew. New families came. Businesses opened. A real church was built. A real school. De Smet became an actual town, not just a railroad stop. You held various positions over the years. Justice of the peace. Deputy sheriff. Respectable positions for a man who once nearly starved. But the long winter never left you. It stayed. A shadow. A weight. A constant reminder. You think about it every winter, every time snow falls, every time the wind picks up, you remember. Your body tenses, your mind starts calculating supplies, even 20 years later, even when winters are mild and food is plentiful, the trauma remains. Laura grew up, became a teacher, got married, started writing. She wants to tell the story, your story, the family story. And she keeps coming back to that winter. The one that nearly killed you all. The one that defined everything that came after. Why do you want to write about that, you ask her one day. Because people need to know, she says. They need to understand what it was really like. Not the sanitized version. The truth. The truth is ugly. I know, but it's real. And real matters. You're not sure you agree. Part of you wants that winter forgotten, buried, left in the past where it belongs, but another part understands. If the story isn't told, the lessons are lost, and those lessons mattered, might still matter. Mary came home from Iowa eventually, educated, capable. She lives with you and Caroline now, teaches music, has a life despite her blindness. The winter tried to take her completely, but she survived, adapted, thrived even. Carrie is married, living elsewhere. She doesn't talk about the long winter much, doesn't want to remember. You respect that. And Grace barely remembers. She was so young. The details faded completely. She grew up knowing there was a bad winter once, but it's abstract to her. Historical, not personal. Maybe that's best. Caroline is beside you always. Your partner through everything. She aged too. The winter took its toll. But she's still strong, still the anchor of the family. Do you regret it, you ask her sometimes? The same question from years ago. Some days, she admits now, some days I think we should have stayed in Wisconsin or Minnesota, somewhere easier. But then we wouldn't have this life, these experiences, this family in this place. For better or worse, this is who we are. And she's right. The long winter made you who you are, made the family who they are. For better or worse, it's part of your legacy. You're known now as the man who survived. Pa Ingalls, who brought his family through the worst winter on record. People respect that, admire it even, but they don't understand the cost. Don't understand that survival isn't heroic, it's just desperate. Just doing whatever it takes to make it through one more day. There's no glory in grinding wheat by hand until your arm goes numb. No honour in watching your children go hungry. No virtue in twisting hay for 14 hours a day just to produce enough heat to not freeze. Survival is ugly, brutal, traumatic. Not something to be celebrated, but something to be endured. And you endured. Your family endured. That's all. You're sitting on the porch of your house. The real house. The permanent one you finally built in 1887. It took years to save enough. Years of work and sacrifice. But it's done. Solid. Real. Your house. Your land. Your town. But at what cost? You think about all the moves. All the fresh starts. All the times you told Caroline and the girls, this time will be different. This time we'll make it work. And you did make it work. Eventually. But God, the price. The grasshoppers in Kansas, the crop failures in Minnesota, the terrible winter in Iowa when you fled in darkness, and then the long winter here in Dakota. Every place extracted its pound of flesh. Every new start cost something. Your youth, your health, your peace of mind, years of your children's childhoods, Caroline's trust in easy promises. Was it worth it? You don't know. You honestly don't know. You achieved the dream, land ownership, a permanent home, respectability in the community. You didn't die broke and homeless. You built something, but you also put your family through hell, multiple times, because you believed in a myth. The myth that if you just worked hard enough, moved far enough, tried one more time, it would all work out. And it did work out. Barely. By the skin of your teeth and a lot of luck. But it could easily have gone the other way. You could have died in that winter. Any of you could have. And it would have been your fault, your choices, your insistence on staying even when leaving might have been wiser. That knowledge haunts you. Laura visits often. She's writing now. Stories about the family, about the moves and the hardships and the resilience. Am I a good father? You ask her one day. She looks surprised. Of course, Pa. You're a wonderful father. I put you through a lot. The hunger, the cold, the fear. All of it was my fault. No, she says firmly. It wasn't. You made choices. Some worked out, some didn't. But you always did what you thought was best. You always kept us together. That's what matters. We almost died, but we didn't. We survived. And that survival made us stronger, made us who we are. You want to believe her? Want to believe that the hardships had purpose, that they built character instead of just inflicting trauma. Maybe both are true. Maybe you can be traumatized and stronger at the same time. Carolyn joins you on the porch. She's slower now. The years and the hardships have caught up with her. But she's still there, still beside you. What are you thinking about? She asks. Everything, the winter, the moves, all of it. She nods, understands without you having to explain. After 40 years of marriage, she always understands. We did okay, she says. Not perfect, but okay. You deserved better. Maybe. But this is what I got. What we got. And I'm still here. Still with you. That counts for something. You take her hand. Wrinkled, scarred, still strong. I'm sorry, you say. For the 100th time. The 1,000th. For all of it. I know. But you don't have to keep apologizing. We made it. We're here. That's the important part. And maybe she's right. Maybe the fact that you're still here, still together, is enough. Maybe survival is its own justification. You sit there together, two old people on a porch in Dakota Territory, watching the sunset over land you own. It's beautiful, peaceful, worth the struggle. You still don't know, but it's yours. That has to mean something. So here's the question, the one you've been avoiding, the one that keeps you awake at night even 30 years later. Was it worth it? All the hardship, all the suffering, all the risks. Was it worth it? You're Charles Ingalls. You're 71 years old now, sitting in your house in De Smet, the house you built, the life you created. Your children are grown. Scattered, living their own lives, some nearby, some far away. Caroline is gone, past a few years back. You miss her every day, miss her strength, her practicality, her ability to make anything feel manageable. She never complained. Not really. Not about the hardships or the moves or the long winter. She just endured. Did what needed doing. Loved her family through everything. You wonder if she thought it was worth it. You never asked. Now you can't. Mary lived a full life despite her blindness. She's teaching. She's independent. She survived and thrived. Laura is writing. Her books are popular. People love the stories of frontier life, the adventures, the resilience. She's making the hard times seem almost romantic, almost noble, and part of you wants to tell her, it wasn't romantic, it was brutal. Stop prettying it up. But another part understands. People need hope, need to believe that hardship has meaning, that suffering builds character, that struggle is worthwhile. So you let her write, let her tell the story her way, even if it's not quite the truth, even if it leaves out the darkest parts, because maybe the story is more important than the facts. Maybe the lesson matters more than the reality. What lesson did the long winter teach? That you're not invincible, that nature doesn't care about your dreams or your hard work or your determination, that sometimes you're just powerless, but also that community matters, that cooperation saves lives, that humans can endure more than they think, that survival, plain, unglamorous survival, is its own kind of victory. You sit there, an old man in an empty house, and you think about October 1880. That first blizzard, the moment everything changed. If you could go back, if you could make different choices, would you? Would you leave before that first storm, take your family east to safety? You'd save everyone so much pain, so much trauma, the hunger, the fear, the months of desperate survival. But you'd also lose what came after, the pride of owning land, the respect of the community, the knowledge that you faced the worst and survived. Would you trade the pain for safety, or keep the pain for the growth? You don't know. You've thought about it for 30 years and you still don't know. Maybe that's the real legacy of the long winter. Not heroism, not triumph, just uncertainty. Just the knowledge that life is hard and choices have consequences, and you do your best with what you know at the time. You made it through. Your family made it through. That's all any parent can ask for, really. Keep your children alive. Give them a chance. Hope for the best. You did that. Against enormous odds. Against a winter that killed livestock and broke families and nearly buried an entire town. You kept your 9 people alive. Fed them. Warmed them. Protected them as best you could. Not perfectly, not without cost. But you did it. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's all anyone can do. Their best in impossible circumstances. The sun is setting. Another day ending. Another winter coming. But this winter doesn't scare you. None of them do anymore. Because you faced the worst. You know what rock bottom looks like. And you survived it. Whatever comes next can't be worse than the long winter. And if you survived that, you can survive anything. The prairie stretches out before you. Endless. Beautiful. Harsh. Unforgiving. Home. This is where your story ends. Not with triumph or tragedy. Just with an old man in a house he built on land he owns, remembering. Remembering the cold. Remembering the hunger. Remembering the fear. But also remembering you survived. The end. So what's the answer? Would you have survived being Pa Ingalls during the long winter of 1880-81? No, you wouldn't. Let's be honest. You'd have made different choices, panicked earlier, given up sooner. You don't have the calluses, physical and emotional, that Charles Ingalls built over 44 years of frontier hardship. But that's okay. You're not supposed to survive impossible situations. That's why they're called impossible. Pa Ingalls survived because he had no choice, because stopping meant death, because his family's lives depended on him keeping it together. He survived through community, through cooperation, through sheer, stubborn refusal to quit. He survived traumatized, changed, haunted by that winter for the rest of his life. But he survived, and sometimes that's the only victory that matters. The long winter of 1880-81 was real. The suffering was real. The near starvation was real. And so was the survival. So tonight, as you're warm and safe, maybe think about that. Think about what it took, what it cost, and be grateful you'll never have to find out if you could do the same. Drop your city and time below and let me know. Could you have survived?